It was an interesting situation. When Steve left Apple, I felt it was a very wrong decision for the board of directors. I went to him and said, "You're making a huge mistake at Apple. Steve is a visionary. Steve is what Mac is about." What the board didn't understand was a couple of things. They didn't understand that Mac was the future of development of technology. They didn't get it. Apple II had been a very big cash cow. The company made a lot of money, and it was really doing well. Their stock was doing very well. So they bet on this guy called John Sculley, who was a Wall Street kind of guy. Had been, as I said, the king of sugar water because he was at Pepsi. Didn't really understand his vision, didn't understand the direction of the product either. So I went to the board of directors and said, "You're making a huge mistake, and I have a plan. We'll spin Steve off in his own company called Mac. You keep Apple, let Steve develop the Mac, and then at the right time you can bring it back together. But you won't mess up the company." But I was so concerned. Mr. Sculley did one thing. He invited us in a room and said, "Okay, everybody here has to pledge your allegiance to supporting me." And all the other executives did except me, and I said, "No, I don't agree with you. I'm not going to support you." And so as a result of that, I went to the board of directors and said, "This is the wrong thing to do." Steve, I could have left Apple at the time. I felt very allegiance to Apple. I felt that without Steve, Apple was in trouble. It was starting to have financial troubles. So I chose to stay there because out of my own personal commitment to try to make sure Apple succeeded. We had almost 5,000 employees. I felt committed to those employees that we need to make sure the company was there for them. And so I decided to stay. In hindsight, I probably should have left. I think that the relationship between John Sculley ultimately deteriorated. I eventually got thrown out just like Steve Jobs did. But it ultimately turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Because one thing I learned about this experience is, since Apple, I've never worked for a company since. Since Apple, I've always founded my own companies because I understood within myself I didn't really like working for somebody. And I think ultimately Steve figured that out about himself also. When he went to started Next and Pixar, he also learned that he didn't want somebody to run his companies. He had to run them himself. And I actually learned that myself also. So, no, I don't look back. I should have left, but I didn't. But in hindsight, everything worked out fine.